that way. I mean, to be able to go against the Patriots and against one of my mentors in this league, and I think I have the great respect for them. Brought, as we said, way back in '08. I mean, a lot of things were brought to the table that I had learned in New England, and it's just been fun watching us develop here over the years. And there's definitely a northeastern stamp on it in certain ways, and yet we've really evolved into something that is very much the Falcons and not obviously the Patriots.
What are those ways?
What are those ways? Well, I just think it's what I've said for many times, probably before you even got around here. I mean, it's indisputable role understanding. It's non-entitlement. It's it's the passion. It's the positivity for us here, and it's about making sure that again, everyone does their jobs and stays in the line that they need to stay in, and they're putting their ego in check. And that's what we believe here, and that's what Dan lives as well. So we're very fortunate to have that.
What has Scott brought to you when you guys formed that partnership? I mean, I know you've had it before in the past, but specifically, what has stood out about what he's done for you guys?
Well, I mean, Scott's obviously a long and trusted friend of mine and a trusted aide for sure. I mean, he's a guy that I can go to on many things, whether it's personnel matters that I want to talk to him about, whether it's handling certain situations that come up, as a leader in the NFL. I mean, Scott and I spent a lot of time together and spent a lot of time talking about the nuances of players in New England. So just having an opportunity to do that has been very good, and we're fortunate to have Scott here. As you know, we're fortunate to have Phil Emery here and Rustin Webster as two other senior guys, and we're it's for our scouting staff who do a great job. It's like a symposium every time we have scouting meetings. I mean, we sit there and we don't talk about all the things the things that we've done positively. We all talk about all the things and vent about all our shortcomings and what we messed up on, and that's where our entire staff continues to learn more and more, and Scott's right at the forefront of that.
Coach said he hates that when you say, well, we've done it this way before. How do you all jump over that hurdle to try to be innovative and creative in the assessment of your talents?
Yeah, I mean, Dan said that from the very beginning, and I agree with that. I mean, we talked a lot about this being the Falcons moving forward from 2015, right? Mm-hmm. And he hates that, of course, but he also is open to talk about. We've talked many times about what I learned through the times I've been here, for the 9 years I've been here, or 7 since he has been here, and he's very open to talking about what the good things and the bad things and what needs to be adjusted. Certain things that we kept without going into details about them. Other things we jettisoned quickly because it wasn't in line with what his personality and mindset was. Because look, the reality is you go as your head coach goes in this league. We know we go as the quarterback goes. As far as the culture, your head coach is going to be a major tone setter here. Of course, that's how it is.
But don't you also have to just draw on your past experience? I mean, your past experience is how you
yes.
learn, right?
Yeah, past experience is vital. I mean, we sat down, interestingly enough, this was one of the best things I think Dan and I have done since we've been together, is after we had free agency in the draft in the first year that Dan was here, we sat down for many days and many hours upon hours talking about our culture, talking about everything under football operations that we touched together. We came up with our vision statements together. It wasn't Thomas's philosophy and Dan's philosophy and how we sort of semi-understood. We went through every department along with culture in football ops and discussed at multi-layers how we wanted to run this organization from the football operations standpoint. And it was the best thing that we could have done, because there's never any ambiguity about it. And if we ever do, we go back to our corporate knowledge platform basically and discuss about everything that we've discussed and how we built the team. And if it needs to be adjusted, it's adjusted together. And I'm so proud of that. Time and again, we talk about it. It is vital in this league to have that partnership between the head coach and the GM. If it's not working, we've seen it recently. If it's acrimonious, you have no chance. You can be two great football men, but if you're not operating along the same wavelength and you don't trust and respect each other, there's no chance for success.
Do you have any regular payoff from these last two draft classes happen a little bit quicker than you might have expected at the outset?
Well, I think I mean, as a general manager, I love the fact that you have a head coach who is able to clearly disseminate what he's looking for across the board, and our coaching staff is able to do that. I knew when he was that clear about it that was going to be really good and a lot easier for our scouting staff to go out and beat the paths looking for players, as well as Dan and I spending a lot of time down the stretch when we do pick these football players together, that we are very clear. And I think Dan is one of those coaches that a general manager dreams to be with, and he's a guy who's going to develop the young talent. I mean, he has all kinds of nerve to go into this season and start 4 rookie defensive players. To me, that's amazing. I've had countless personnel men call me and indirectly laud Dan for that, or laud Dan for that, because that's what personnel men want. That's what general managers want. They want to be able to work with a head coach who is open to developing, because in today's world, if you don't develop your players now, 3 years from now, those players don't reach their potential, you're not really sure if you're cutting them prematurely or not. I believe here, whatever we do, however we approach this, if we do release a player down the road, whether we acquire him in free agency or mostly in the draft, that we'll have a very, very good idea of what they are because of Dan's approach to developing players and our coaching staff's approach.
Do you have any regular communication with Bill? And if so, have you guys communicated all in the past week or two?
We have random communication. I mean, we every once in a while we'll send a text, and we may get on the phone and talk about an issue at hand that is not an issue. It could be a league issue or a league matter that we're talking about. And every once in a while I'll reach out. But not that often. We see each other at Senior Bowl or at the Combine and such, and league meetings and such.
But you're focused on what you've got to do here, and I'm sure it's taken up all your time, but is this an opportunity to kind of look back and just appreciate that you've worked your way up through the ranks, seriously done it the long way?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been around football since the day I was born, and I mean, my real growth and learning period, quite honestly, I mean, I learned a lot. Learned a lot from my father, learned a lot from different places I was at, of course. But it wasn't until I got to the Patriots that I truly realized the idea, at the core, the team concept. And I grew up hearing it all the time, but actually being put into effect there in New England, I'll take that with me forever. And it's been a great sort of molding idea for me, seeing that it can truly work. It's not just on paper, that if the team does come together, and that many years forward, to see everything come together as it has now, that though we all hear brotherhood and we all think at times there may be cliches in this league, Dan lives and is authentic, and so very authentic are the players about brotherhood that I've not seen that before.
What did you see in New England that struck you, the whole team?
Well, yeah, I think everyone putting the team first. I think everyone understanding what their lines were, and they weren't, venturing out, that they were truly focused on their role. And if they focused on their role and their brother focused on their role, that they have a fighting chance to always be successful. I mean, we got to a point in New England when we were there in the mid-2000s where we were winning so many games, and especially the year that I left in 2000, I came here in 8, right? So that 2007 season, the Patriots were blowing people out at rates that none of us have ever seen before, and it almost became boring going to games when you were playing people, because if you weren't beating them by 40 points, it was a little bit of a letdown. It was the most unreal thing in the world. And then obviously we go an undefeated season until the Super Bowl, and Tyree catches the ball, and that was it. I'd happened to be here 3 weeks before because I had taken the job here, but so there's just so many really, really interesting things in New England, that they lived as a team. And interestingly enough, this generation, I could spin off on this, the millennials and the younger generation, I think it's so important for them to understand the importance of team, of course, but let's call it the way it is. You see it here. You have to bring it to life. It can't be all, gray and bland. It has to be alive, and that's what Dan does here. He takes the basic elements of the team concept and he brings it to life for this generation of players who completely buy in.
What about off the field, though? In the office, Scott, when he was there before he left, Bill, in terms of how basically the front office was functioning sort of together as a unit, what struck you about that sort of, that you maybe brought here or wanted to bring here?
Well, Scott was my boss for 6 years there, and we spent a lot of time again together. And I was very mindful of the lines, right? I was very mindful, and I've always been mindful. We had very definitive lines in that organization, not to the point of any disrespect at all, but again, I can't stress that enough. And I think being able to talk with Scott at levels, and then Scott would go to Bill, and they would have their meetings. It's very similar to what we do here. I have a lot of really good discussions with Scott. There's a time where it ends up going where it's completely just Dan and me, and we spend a lot of time. I've said this time and again. Dan and I speak 10 times a day at so many levels, at so many things, from policy to acquisitions to how we're going to replace lights in this